So, earlier today, I posted a shit post that was like 40% shit post, 60% an actual idea for a show I had. As I guess I explained that in the follow-up tweet. But basically this morning, I just threw out into the ether a Twitch podcast where I bring a random person on, ask them what's your fave game, and just keep saying, that's so cool, while we talk about it for an hour. And so the original idea that I had like late last night was I need like a hook to get collabs on my show and to get other people on my show. I like talking to you guys, just me, but like I want to be having like conversations that isn't just my perspective on the games industry and things like that. I want to get as many perspectives as possible from as many different content creators, like basically everyone, because the gimmick or the hook, let's not say gimmick, let's go with hook of this show is that basically the only rule is that I'm going to talk with someone on the show and I'm going to ask them, what's your fave game? What's your favorite video game? And some people are going to have an answer to that right off the bat, and some people aren't going to know. But whatever their answer is, that is going to be like the start of our discussion, because I think one of the best types of videos that I like on YouTube and on Twitch is people just like gushing about stuff that they love. So I feel like if you ask someone what their favorite video game is and they're at least like a little bit nerdy, like you're probably going to get like at least some kind of answer from them. Like some kind of good like start to a conversation. So I'm excited for this. I like did some Googling to make sure no one else had like done this before to make sure I wasn't sneaking in on anyone's territory. But for now, we're going to try this out. And I see Matt, my roommate, in the chat. Do me next. Here's the thing. I would legitimately... Okay. This might be putting cart ahead of the horse. This might be the worst episode ever. Like, I might have to end my career after this. Maybe it's going to be such a bad podcast thing that we're just going to give up on this completely. But if this goes well, I think the thing that I like about the concept of just asking someone what their favorite game is that I could have like literally anyone on the show, and I think that would still lead to like a good conversation. So like I have Todd coming on the show, and I have like a whole bunch of other content creators. Mitch, I see you in chat. Mitch, Warren, I have like a bunch of people that I really like talking about video games with, that I'm really excited to do that with on the show. But then also like I definitely want to have both my roommates on here at some point as well to get their takes on what their favorite video games are, whatever we'll talk about. I could friggin' have my mom on the show and just be like, yo, Mom, what's your favorite video game? And she'd be like, I don't know, like Tetris or something. And then we could talk about Tetris. So I think it's a really good conversation starter. And I just want to... Basically... I just want to have like a nice, cool, chill show where people can like talk about the video games they love and just like talk about like why we like this hobby and this industry and stuff like that, and hopefully lead to some good conversations. So without further ado, on that front, I'm going to invite my lovely friend Todd in here, and we're going to get this show on the road.
Hello.
Hello.
What up, dude?
Not a lot. First things first is we get to ask chat. Is Todd at a good audio level, guys? Compared to...
Is Todd at a good audio level? This is Todd talking right now. Hello, I'm Todd.
Will I be able to edit this and put this on like YouTube later without everyone yelling at me about audio quality?
Your audio is so bad. You should unsubscribe.
You recorded in the middle of a potato.
You are actually just entirely a potato, and
you literally are.
You are just a potato, and I wish I was watching that instead. Really freaking potato. I want to watch that.
All right. Did I boost Todd a good amount there, or did I boost him too much?
I'm talking still again, just to say. I want to be clear. I support all potatoes.
It's okay if you want to say there's too much.
If you've been recently if you've been turned into a potato recently, I don't mean anything by this.
Potatoes like the only thing that my like home province is known for in Canada. Princess.
And you.
Exactly. So I'm a little bit offended.
You just go to famouspeople.com/ Well, wait, have you said where you live? Or did you just say that right now?
Prince Edward Island, yeah.
It's famouspeople.com/ Prince Edward Island. Potato, it's just an actual potato, and then Josh. And then people are commenting, these are the same thing.
Why do you just have the same person listed over and over?
This is 2 potatoes.
Oh, dear. So, Todd, you are my guinea pig today.
Dude, I love being a guinea pig. I'm all about eating way too much food and being a real hassle for the people who take care of me.
Man, I actually know a few people. Well, I guess I don't talk with them much anymore, but every now and then, like, I'll see on Facebook that they posted like another addition to this huge like guinea pig home they have for like 4 guinea pigs they own. It's like a literal like guinea pig mansion.
I mean, look, people are free to do what they want, but not if I'm living there. Shit, I'd be like, one of these things has to go, and that includes me or you.
So you want to get rid of the guinea pig entirely?
Or me, or the other person. That's all I'm saying.
I misunderstood that at first, and I thought you meant like, if I was a guinea pig, I wouldn't want a fancy place to live. I would want like the simple, rustic guinea pig life.
You know, honestly though, I don't know. I don't know enough about guinea pigs. I feel like if I was a guinea pig, I would want for little in general. I'd probably want to live and feel taken care of and maybe even respected by my peers. But even then, I mean, who knows how much they want for such.
I mean,
things,
as long as you got the self-respect, like
right.
What more?
I'm all I need.
There you go, Marie Kondo the guinea pig.
Dude, nice. I mean, sure, I support that. I would watch that spin-off series on Netflix.
That would be good. Does this spinny wheel bring you joy? I would answer yes. I think spinny wheels bring a lot of joy, but like, you need to answer that question.
Dude, I gotta say, you have to wonder because it depends. It depends. I think if I'm as maybe unintelligent as I imagine guinea pigs to be, probably super chill. But if I'm me as a guinea pig, I don't think I'm chill with the spinning wheel. I feel like it's like I'm being manipulated. This is obvious. Like somebody has done the research on me, and they're like, "Here's the thing that you will love, but will not actually improve your life in any way." And I don't know. I think that's kind of messed up.
I guess that's true. I mean, I guess. Yeah.
Think
about
that.
So the main thing I'm getting here is that this is now a podcast about guinea pigs. We're gonna give up on the video game part of it.
I don't know what video games are. I've got guinea pigs and because I've got guinea pigs and Fleabag because that's the only thing I can think of that's related to guinea pigs at all.
Oh, dude. I still need to see Fleabag. I keep hearing.
How have you not seen
I know! Fleabag seems like something that I should have watched already.
Normally, I would let people up. Oh, yeah, no, you should totally watch it. But you in particular.
It was a play first.
It was a play
a play.
It's like the darkest of comedies, which is so. I mean, that's so your shit.
Yes. I don't know how I haven't seen that yet. What is it streaming on?
Look, here's the thing. I understand, ethically, you're like, I don't know. I'm already on Twitch. I don't know if I want to stream on Amazon. I want to, that's too many. Maybe you feel like that's too many bad things. You have to you have to go heal something else in the world before you can watch it. I understand. No, but for real, it's on Prime. It's really fucking good.
Yeah, I keep hearing really good things about it, and like I've also heard about it like through the theater angle of things, like as a really good success story of like, oh, like she did that play like in fringe festivals and stuff, which is like the very beginning of like indie theater of like when you're just trying to get your foot in the door as like your own creator, and like got that all the way up to like, yeah, like it's a really like inspiring story.
And like, she's like retired it, I think like 3 times, because she retired the play, and then she retired the show, and then she brought the play back, and then the show back, and then retired the play again. The show is still done, but then she brought the play back again because of the quarantine, I think.
Oh, okay.
As I think she did like a one-time thing of it. I don't remember because I don't know, early days in quarantine, I was basically just skimming headlines. I was not like, let's see how this particular community was devastated by this horrible disease.
Yeah, you couldn't engage too much.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
But I believe she did do like some kind of like benefit where she did it like one last time. Which really, but like, I think one of the things I want to say, and I saw someone say it in the chat. Everybody mentions Andrew Scott. I love him in the second season. The main sisters are the best parts of the show by like a million miles. It's so weird. It was but the hot priest though. It's like, okay, he was great.
Oh,
but the main characters are so good, so good. Sorry, I just want to say.
I had to like Google who Andrew Scott was. Or I was like, oh yeah, he was the handsome
Moriarty.
Yeah, the handsome Moriarty dude.
Yeah. It's fun, I don't know. I'm a straight guy. I don't really find him all that attractive. He's a great actor. I find him as like attractive as a human being because it seems like he seems to have his head in the right space. You know what I'm talking about? And like, he doesn't look bad or anything, but he's not like, I think
he's got like kind of that little bit of. I feel weird like talking about someone's looks, but like I think he's got that like little quirk where like some people find him incredibly attractive and then it doesn't work for like other people.
I totally get that. Yeah, that's totally fair.
But and then like that's funny you say the like the like I'm straight but like still see it like that thing, because that's something like I recently kind of started trying to like explore my sexuality in that way. Coming at. Did you see that I came out as pan like a little bit ago?
Oh, I did not, dude. Congratulations.
Oh,
that's
thank
awesome.
you.
No, I totally did not see that.
Yeah, no, it's not like a big deal. I literally like shit posted about it on Twitter like twice as an announcement. Like I posted like a GIF or something, but that was that just made me think of that, because one of the things that like I've been trying to unpack is like, shit, like, am I like super attracted to this person, or is it a talent crush? Because I get talent crushes like mad, like have always had
great.
that.
I've never heard that phrase before. I love that phrase. Talent crush.
Yeah, talent crush.
That's great.
Because it's just like there's.
Now, look, as far as talent crushes, I am pan as fucked. If that's a phrase that we're using, absolutely, I'm here for that.
Well, yeah, that was always my thing. Like before, was I would I'd be like, I don't know if like I'm like into that guy sexually, but like holy shit, the way he sings, like and but just what you said like kind of made me think about that of like, is he someone that I find like super hot, or like is it just because he's really good at playing like a twisted like quirky villain in like Sherlock or whatever? And
sure he does, and like that's the thing, he's very talented. I've loved him in anything I've seen him in.
Yeah. What?
Someone asked what pan means.
So pan is the way that I kind of understand it. There's a lot of overlap with bisexual, but for me, pansexual is like gender's not really. It's not like a deal breaker or taken into account like too much with who I'm attracted to. Or like basically I'm attracted to all genders. But the way I see it is it's more like just not an issue for me, if that makes sense. That's the best way that I've heard described. There's a lot of different like definitions, especially between like bisexual and pansexual have kind of had like changing terminology over time. But pansexual was the label that like felt best to me, because doing research, I saw a lot of stuff that was like, oh, like for me, it's not about like I'm attracted to like everyone. It's more like I don't take into account like what they identify as like whenever I realize I'm attracted to them.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. That seems like a significant milestone in a long journey.
Yeah, no, it was something that like I've like had been thinking about for a long time, like trying to explore that. But within the past few months, as I've kind of like unpacked a bunch of other mental health stuff, it was like, oh, here's a nice side effect. You got some more perspective on this, and it's like, oh, okay, I'm pan. That's cool. Good to know.
That's great.
And like,
that's hot, man.
Yeah. It felt good to have like some stuff kind of like click into place with that and make some more sense.
Right. That's great, dude. I'm happy for you.
Thank you.
Actually, I was gonna make a joke about your sordid past as a man slut. Well, but I forgot you're in a relationship now too, you bastard.
I am.
You didn't even tell me nothing. God.
Oh shit.
Like, what why are we even friends? I don't even know. You're pan now. You've got you're on YouTube again.
Did I tell you? Did I tell you about the children I adopted? The orphans.
Yeah, you've adopted children. Don't you have a new cat too? You piece of shit.
Okay, no. The two cats are my girlfriends. So that's part of one thing I haven't told you about. It's not two separate things. But yeah, there's 3 cats running around here now.
Look, that's great. That's great. No, and in all seriousness, that's what happens, man. People's lives move on. You don't have to tell me everything.
Oh no, like I feel like I basically like since November like went very like solo, like kind of cut myself off not because of anything that like anyone did, but just I had to focus on myself for a bit. And so it's so weird because like obviously all the COVID stuff going down and just everything in 2020, but like right before 2020 started was whenever I really started seeing a therapist and like got on antidepressants and stuff like that. So I like literally like the last like 7 or 8 months has probably been like the craziest, like most change filled like period maybe in like my life. And I feel like it's only within like the past few weeks that things are finally like settling down. I'm like, okay, I can like maintain like a routine again, and I've been like getting back into like frequent streaming and like reaching out to people and stuff. And so that's like kind of why I'm trying to like reach back out to people. And like I get there's like that selfish reason for wanting to like talk to people about video games. I'm like, that's a really good excuse to like catch up with friends I haven't seen in a while.
Yeah. But that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think that's like important. I think people, and I don't say this to judge people, but I think people can be afraid of that time. Especially, I think it's kind of like if you go to like a water park and you are with somebody who is that person who is like, we're going on that, and you're like, oh sure, but I actually don't want to go on that one. And they're like, they can't hear you. You're just like, oh, am I gonna put my foot down, or am I just gonna go on this fucking ride?
Yeah.
And I think there comes a point in your emotional health and your mental health where you're like, I'm gonna get on the ride, I guess. And you start to see the merit in it, but it doesn't make it any less scary.
Yeah.
And then at the end, you're all wet, and
the metaphor tracks.
And the metaphor tracks. Word. Well, I'm happy you went through all that and you feel good and not, it wasn't one of those things where you come out the other side and you're like, oh, well, now I just hate everything. Because I understand that, like, sometimes going inward can sort of breed a resentment for outward. I mean, not that you would be necessarily susceptible to this, but just that it is a thing that happens.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
I'm happy that you feel, you're like, cool, I'm I'm ready to, I'm gonna hit up that person. I'm gonna get on Twitter. I'm gonna get on Twitch. I'm gonna get on YouTube. Ba ba da ba.
Yeah, yeah, and it was. I feel like like part of the process was that like I don't want to like glorify like feeling worse before it got better or anything like that, but like there definitely was a point where it's like, oh, like I think I'm making like a lot of progress, but like I didn't like. It just made me feel worse, but then I kind of had to like go like a layer deeper, like to use an Inception metaphor or whatever, and like figure out it's like, okay,
somebody kicked you in the chair.
I beat like level 2 of like my psyche. Like, okay, let's go to level 3 because there's still like some stuff that's like not quite working out yet.
B-side, like Celeste.
Yeah, exactly. I had to start. I was like, okay, I figured out how to wall jump. Now we got to do some of that crazy shit.
Yeah, and you're like, and now you feel stronger, and you're going back and collecting strawberries.
Exactly, yeah, and like it feels like I definitely it was like a rough like few months, and like obviously it's been rough for everyone in ways like not just related to my own.
No, of course.
But yeah, I feel it was really good to like take, and I still am like trying to be introspective and like I don't want to like, okay, I'm done growing now. This is enough. Game over.
Right.
But yeah, I feel like I'm in like a solid enough spot now to start like getting back out there and doing things again.
That's great, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I missed you. I was like, where's all my Zelda?
Oh, thank you. I missed it too.
I watched like 4 people on Twitch, and I was like, shit, I lost one. What am I supposed to do? Find someone else to watch? I don't know.
They like updated some of those Zelda randomizers so much. Like I'm excited to get back into them.
Dude, I'm excited for you to be like, this is gonna be great, and then you start playing, and then you're gonna be like, I don't remember the routes anymore, and I hate this.
And this is why this is hard.
This is why this is hard.
But
But yo, real quick before I guess we should talk about video games at some point.
But
real quick,
yes,
I want to jokingly continue on this subject. What is your go-to introspective body position? Are you a ceiling watcher? Are you a chair? Do you sit in the chair? Do you spin in the chair? Are you on the bed all day? What's your go-to?
Just did it to think about the answer to that question. Chat must have just seen me do it. It's literally like look above my monitor. Like just focus on the wall, like look above my monitor. I do that so much.
The answers are right there. They're right above the monitor.
Yeah, it's I just have everything written there. The secrets to life. You guys donate enough this stream, I'll switch the webcam around so you guys can learn too. But like
the answers are right there. Look, if every 100 subs, I'll move my webcam 15 degrees.
Just a little bit of the monitor shift.
That's only 1,200 subs to turn the camera all the way around. That's
good night,
bad.
Christina. We love you.
Oh, is that Christina? Christina? Oh my God.
Christina's eating eggs in the chat.
They're allowed to. I didn't know eggs were allowed to sign up for Twitch. Twitch is
they're letting everyone
progressive.
on these days. I mean, I draw the line at eggs.
I draw the line at eggs. You better stop. Look, I had eggs yesterday. I'm here for eggs. I'm just saying I'm surprised.
Oh dear. Okay. So half an hour into this, I feel like Todd. I need to ask you a question.
Yes, ask me.
What's your fave game?
Okay, here's the thing, and this is a known problem with me. That question is literally impossible, and borderline offensive. But I'm not offended because I understand where you're coming from.
Okay, we're having this conversation from an educational perspective.
No, I have so many fucking favorite video games. It's huge. Games are huge. I've played too many games. I think that there's a lot of, obviously different ways people interact with games. And some people have like favorite categories or like, oh, like this is definitely my favorite game. This is the game, Mario 64, ride or die, get fucked. I'm definitely not that guy. However, I was thinking about this since you invited me, and I figured I should do some kind of prep work and not be a total piece of shit and show up and talk about unrelated issues for 30 minutes. I would never do that.
Doesn't sound like
I decided I would think of the game. I was trying to think of a game that I think touched as much of my life as possible, like broadly things that like not just the game itself, but it kind of seeped into my other interests. I refer to it often. I've played it a lot. Everything, like at every level. And that game, which you probably won't be surprised about, but that game is Jet Set Radio Future.
I knew it.
That is. I think it's. Like I said, I don't know that I would be like, oh, this is my number one favorite game, but it is the game that has reached the furthest through my life. Because some backstory. So I grew up in a nerdy house. My dad used to be a game developer, and my mom worked for like a short version. She worked for some science shit. Ooh. So I had a very nerdy house. In general, like my parents literally met playing board games before board games.
Oh my god!
Were real. There, back when there was like
when you couldn't have like a board game cafe.
Right. No, if you had a board game cafe, it would be the toy aisle at Toys R Us. Like that's actually board games weren't even at Toys R Us, even from Hasbro yet. That's how.
Oh shit.
That's how. No, that's actually. Oh, that actually might be true. Actually, I don't know. But anyway, so like they got really into like what are called Euro games, and like now obviously Euro games are fucking massive, and there's all these YouTube channels and blah blah blah. But back then they were like, it was like you had to scour the globe to find, especially Americans who wanted to play those kinds of games, and that's how they met. And it's gross, and I don't want to talk about it anymore. But so I actually, the funny thing is though. I kind of grew up. I didn't actually play a lot of video games until I was about like 10 or 11. So I missed a lot of the games that I think people our age, and I mean, I'm a little bit older than you, but like in general, our age like really resonates with. So like the 64 games in general, I mean, pick one, Banjo, Zelda, Mario, whatever. And even like DOS, like early PC stuff, even though not only did we have a computer, we had two computers. We've had two computers for as long as I can remember, which is not a thing.
Yeah, that was not a thing like in the 90s or like early 2000s. No.
Nobody had two computers. I don't even remember like having shitty internet. That's how like nerdy my parents were. Like they went, they did as much as they could even back then.
That's like what I want to, if I ever have kids, like that's what I want to offer them.
Like, just like the most accessible gaming palace.
Like I feel like if I became like a millionaire or something, I would want to like not spoil my kids or anything like that. But I think like the one area where I'd be like, yeah, no, like I'm really into this shit. You guys can have unlimited internet and like whatever video games you want. Yeah, like, I would want to supply that. Yeah.
Right. Well, I think that's the whole thing, right? Is that people our age, most people's parents didn't even recognize that as a worthwhile expenditure, much less see the growth or even recognize what it was at all.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's just like, what even, it's just like, okay, well, this box has games in it and then I'm done, right? I don't have to do anything anymore. Like, I have to buy more games?
Yeah.
Oh, I hate this, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I needed to retweet our thing. Hey, come hang out. We're talking about games. What the fuck else are you doing tonight?
Nobody else better show up. Not allowed.
Anyway, I brought all that up. So I skipped a lot of those games. I think I've told you this story. Maybe I haven't. So we had an N64, And like basically because my mom understood games and like literally like she was like or my mom, both my parents accessed like that whole space. Like we didn't really get like bad games, you know, like everyone's got that, I got Lion King, or I got like this bad game or this movie tie-in.
Yeah,
I didn't get a lot of those.
Yeah, I feel like most people would have to settle for just like whatever their parents like picked up at Toys R Us or whatever, and they wouldn't know what was good. But your mom like had the knowledge.
Yeah, she knew to some degree. She knew like what was up, and like she knew how to parse like what would be a good time. So like we had like all the N64 games I had were more or less bangers. But like I remember Mario 64 I had fun with. It was fine. I never really didn't really like imprint on me. And Ocarina of Time I played. I got scared of the fucking spider. The first what's it called again? The one that
Goma?
Eyeball.
The big
eyeball,
one?
Goma, yeah. I got scared of Goma and I didn't like spiders, so I didn't like that whole dungeon in general. And I fucked off of that entire franchise until Twilight Princess, which I was like, I hate this. And then I fucked off again until like A Link Between Worlds, and then I went all the way back. No, that's not true. I played Wind Waker. I played Wind Waker. I forgot about that.
Wind Waker gets
Anyway, so I started really getting into games once I turned 10 because my mom said I couldn't have a Game Boy until I was 10. That was the rule. I don't know why. I don't think that makes any fucking sense. But basically, what ended up happening...
I wasn't allowed to get a portable console until around that age either. I think I was like 11 or 12 before I was allowed to have one.
See, I basically, because of that, I missed Pokemon.
Yeah,
too,
no, that's why I'm not a Pokemon person.
Yep,
I was never able to.
Kindred.
Yeah.
It's like literally missed the whole fucking window. It's crazy. So, I was really into handheld stuff. Like, that was my jam. That's like what I would play whenever I could. But the first game that I got that I wasn't just kind of like, oh, this is fun, or like, oh, like I'm into this game. It seems pretty cool. The first game that like blew my mind was definitely Jet Set Radio Future when the Xbox came out. I was just like, what even is this? Like, what even is this game? It's so different from everything else I had played because my mom likes a lot of she liked a lot of RPGs and like tactics games and stuff like that, which I love still to this day. So, you know, we had a lot of like PlayStation hits and like Game Boy Advance games that were like pretty good for like tactics or like RPGs like in that genre. But like I hadn't really played like an adventure game that I really resonated with because like I said, like I kind of Mario was fine. I bounced off Zelda, you know, so and that whole like the collectathon thing never appealed to me. It more or less still doesn't all that much, although I appreciate it a lot more. Now.
But like at the time, like none of those games had like super clicked for you yet.
They hadn't clicked. They hadn't, you know, I wasn't like, oh dude, like this is me. Like this feels like me. You know, it was very, very cartoony, very goofy. And then like And I also think, like at the time, if you think about like sports and stuff like that, and look with Tony Hawk Pro Skater, it was a little bit more of like that edge of the grunge, which I also didn't really resonate with, even though I liked Tony Hawk Pro Skater a lot. Like I liked that kind of thing. I liked all the arcade sports games, stuff like that. But like Future was this amazing combination of an adventure that felt like an adventure game. You know, you go to new areas and like you meet all these characters and there's this ridiculous story that kind of doesn't make any sense. And there's like a DJ professor who is in a pirate radio station of an unknown location. And like all the characters are like, yo, haha, hey, ha. And you're like, what? It's so, you know, it just has so much, it has so much juice in it, you know? And I was just like, this is fucking crazy. I'm into this, and like it never waned, like ever. I never stopped being like my thing, that style, that vibe, you know?
Yeah, because you still like have used that stuff like even like in your stream assets and everything, like music from Jet Set Future and everything.
Yeah. Did you play that game?
So that was what I was just about to say was I have actually never played any of the Jet Set games.
Yeah. But see, but that's the thing. Those games are like they're in that 90s Sega box of like people who like showed up to like Endgame Dreamcast or like, you know, Sega, you know, moving over to the Xbox kind of era, and they were like, does nobody else see this shit? This is like, what? Look at Jet Set, like Space Channel, Power Stone. What? Does nobody see this? No one sees these games. Yeah. And it's weird because they came and went, and they were just this very small amount of time.
Yeah, like it because a lot of people like still to this day like really like the Dreamcast and like have a lot of fond memories of the Dreamcast. And I like never had that console or anything, but it seems like there was that like small like they just had bam a lot of games that like even if they weren't like huge successes at the time, I think they're really influential on a lot of people because people like still talk about them, and like Sega still uses like iconography from them for like even if they don't make like actual like Jet Set games anymore, like they still put stuff in like Monkey Ball or like Sonic or whatever because like they're good and people really like them.
Yeah, exactly. And they've had, and I think that like, especially now, and we're talking about modern indie games, and we're talking about sort of the evolution of visual style and technical production level that is available to smaller teams, and not just smaller teams, but less experienced teams. And people are coming, you know, we're coming back around and looking at the PS1, they're looking at the Dreamcast, and looking at, you know, even like early PS2, early Xbox, all that stuff, and they're saying, well, this low poly look is accessible again. Like this is something that I can do. This was something that it took them years to do, and now some like pretty good, like good artists, and they're learning Blender, and they can already make that shit. And
they've made game development so much more accessible now too, because it's like I'm sure if you were like modeling like the trees in Ocarina of Time like back in the day, like that was like a super complicated procedure to do, and like you were doing everything you could to like cram like what you could into that model. And now it's like you can just go in Blender, like geometric shape, bam, that kind of looks like a tree, and but you can still have that same aesthetic, and I think that's really interesting. I really like the have you seen like the rise of like horror games that look like PS1 rips?
I'm not the biggest horror genre guy, but I know I've seen some of it like just kind of graze my timeline.
Yeah, like I haven't like played a whole lot of them myself, but just like my girlfriend will watch like Markiplier or something, and a lot of like the indie stuff that they'll check out, like that's going on in the horror scene, is just people like making games that look specifically like they were on the PS1, like that exact like weird filtering for like the 32-bit effect and everything, because it's just like a really efficient way to make games now, is to have that retro aesthetic, because like those aesthetics were so strong back then and left such an imprint.
I think it's funny because we're in this time of like unequivocated facial reconstruction and human resemblance in the AAA space. Like I refuse to play it, but like looking at like Last of Us, it's like, God, these people's fucking faces and bodies and all the physics, it's insane. I mean, and even looking, like I've been playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and it's like, oh, even that, like it looks so good. It's nuts.
I've been playing Ghost of Tsushima, and that game legitimately, like the HUD like disappears most of the time if you're just wandering around. And like if the lighting's coming at you right, like the game looks so good that I legitimately get those like vibes you get from an E3 trailer where it's like faking gameplay, but you know it's not actually gameplay. Right. And because there's no HUD on screen, it's like, oh, this is like pre-rendered. But then it's like, no, Josh, you're holding the controller and like you're the one moving this. Like I still have some of that built-in like they got to be faking this shit, right?
Yeah.
And like, it's blowing my mind that it's like running on a PS4 and like we're just about to have a new console generation. Like, it's nuts what they can do now.
It really is. And conversely, I say all of that, and I genuinely do praise all of that. I'm really
Yeah, I know where you're going.
A lot with like I'm really connecting with a lot of like the games that are featuring that, like in particular Odyssey. I'm getting really into. But fuck, man, there is so much that you can convey with much less, and a lot of these indie devs have really sat there and done the work. And they're putting the effort in to be like, how can I make my characters and my world be this expressive without having to fucking face map a actual celebrity?
Yeah. Yeah. And I kind of like that that's like the two directions that like technology seems to be going in the game scene. Cause like I like there is a lot of value to people like making these crazy realistic like billion polygon like face renderings or whatever. But I also like I feel like we're at the point where if you're like an indie company, like there's not a whole lot tech wise like holding you back from anything like stylized you'd want to do anymore. Like
sure.
Like I think today actually was like the 10th anniversary of the game Limbo. Do you remember that? Like the black and white.
Dude, I love Limbo.
Like a game like that, like I don't know if any like increase in technical power would like make that game wouldn't look any better, no matter how much more like powerful consoles get. So I feel like we're at the point where just as a baseline, most people have like a blank canvas and can do whatever for indie games. And like because of that, like they're doing stylized stuff that just does not take near as much as like having to render these full on faces.
Yeah, definitely. I think it obviously there's like always budget and time concerns, but like people are really sitting there and be like, okay, well, what's the most I can do for my project, my team? And they're getting there and they're having a lot of success. I mean, like even just looking at that was a Chair Interactive, I think. Looking at Inside, I mean, Inside won so many fucking awards. It was, I mean, really just an excellent game, and it's basically just Limbo again. Yeah, like in a lot of ways, it was just let's do Limbo again. But go back and you play Limbo, it doesn't look any worse. It's like, oh yeah, they found a style that worked and they conveyed it well. And then you look at Inside and you go, this is an excellent evolution of that style, and yet all the identity is still there. You know, that the traits that sort of you would expect to see, they're all there. There was no, you know, and so it's one of those things where it's just like this is such an amazing time. And I think like looking at like over the years, like my feelings towards like in particular like Jet Set Radio Future it really does sort of track with how things have evolved in every other space of gaming. Because I think I look at like I you know, obviously I did YouTube for 4 years, right? Yeah. So and one of the last things I did was a video about Jet Set Radio Future. So it kind of ended up being sort of this interesting little point of like, I've thought a lot about game design and blah, 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 and I finally want to talk about it. And, you know, that's kind of a moment, right? For me personally. It's the moment in my life now. And then kind of go on from there and, like, to see all these advancements in game design and specifically in aesthetics. And also, and so many, relatively speaking, so many games being like, I want to borrow from Jet Set Radio. It's amazing how this game, in a lot of ways, has remained relevant to the people who liked it in the first place, and has remained something that you can look at and go, oh yeah, I can learn from this. Or you can play some game and go, you know, as a gamer or whomever, you can look at it and go, oh, dude, is this where this seems like kind of an inspiration for this or that, and even beyond that, to look at it and go, I still haven't seen anyone do this. Yeah, I think that's amazing. I think that's all. You know, I think some of the best games can't say that.
Yeah, no, I think Yeah, if you have a game that's like still like in, like when did that come out? Like 2002 or?
I think 2003.
Yeah, it's like nearly 20 years.
Not good with me.
Yeah, so ages ago. We're not that old, I hope. But yeah, like it's always cool to see like games that like maybe didn't get like appreciated as much at the time, but have obviously been like impactful on like game developers themselves.
Yeah. And like you can, I mean, you really can. Like if you know Jet Set Radio Future, or even just regular Jet Set Radio, you will see it. Like you won't have a choice but to see it. Like in this and in that. Like one of the games I really want to play. Oh, this 2002? Okay, nice. One of the games I really want to play that I haven't played yet is an indie game, but I've been playing a different indie game for an undisclosed reason. And the game is called Umurangi Generation, and it's a third-person like exploration game, or first-person exploration game where all you do is take photos, and literally that's all that I know about it. I don't know what else goes on, but the aesthetics are fucking so street, so urban, so like angular and so expressive in that sense. And like I'm like, yo, see, this is what I'm talking about. This feels like that sort of like space that Jet Set Radio Future was like. We're not obviously they don't dominate the space because how it's not that big of a game. Like it sold a lot because it was attached to the Xbox.
Yeah, but it's still having an impact like even now.
Exactly. Like, I feel like to some extent it was like, hey, urban, streetwear, like anti-authority in terms of like not just like gangs, but in terms of like the actual spirit and the style and the expression of the street kind of vibe and like city urban vibes. Like that can be a space that games can live in and can tell stories in and can be fun in. I think again, like to this day we still barely see games even attempting that. Like I think to some extent, and obviously it's always hard with these kinds of games because they're really fucking bloated, but to some extent you look at even like a game like Watch Dogs, and obviously the immediate comparison is going to be GTA, right?
Yeah.
But to me, I think a little bit of that counterculture kind of like space is shared with a game like Jet Set Radio. And I think it would be a stronger game if it had a style that was more like that.
Yeah, leaned more heavily into that direction.
Right, instead of kind of like the second one, which I think is a better game, but it still kind of borrows off this like fake street mixed with cyberpunk, like ex-Facebook developer tech punk. And it's like this is kind of not a thing.
Yeah, kind of like watering down like multiple concepts to just have an overall like dystopia thing.
Right. Yeah, like how many. And since then, and in around that time, and since then until now, like how many times are we gonna do the LED baseboard mask thing?
Oh my god, that was like in the Nintendo Direct I reacted to like 2 days ago or yesterday.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, they had
Abyss, right?
Or it was Rogue Trooper or like whatever. It's like like they announced like a new hero or something for that, and it was literally like the blinking like happy face like hacker mask.
Yeah, and I'm just like it's just kind of frustrating because I don't think it's actually bad. I just think it's a little bit uninspired because it's weirdly such a like gamery thing that I'm like, okay, but I don't actually know. I feel like you're having to write a lot harder to give context to what that sort of thing is supposed to mean. Not just I have a helmet on and I don't like people, so I'm not going to use my real face. I just feel like that shorthand is very broad. And I look at games like Jet Set Radio, Future, or even like just like other kinds of like urban kind of feeling games. Like even like it's still Sega, but like, even like Crazy Taxi, which is like this feels a little bit more like we've tried to look at what we feel like a city is, and we've made it about this particular part of city life.
Yeah.
We've looked at this particular slice of the world, and we're like, what if we dialed this up and made it a game?
Yeah, like you're getting like a very specific perspective, and like it's obviously like a heightened like game reality because it's like cell shaded and it's cell shaded, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's like one of its whole big, things. Because I think like looking specifically at Jet Set Radio in terms of like theming. Also, what up, Taylor? How's it going? It's my buddy. He works at Riot, and he's an idiot.
Oh, cool.
I love him.
Hello.
He it's metaphors, I should say. I just called him. You don't even know. You have no idea who that was. Jet Set Radio Future. It's funny, right? Because you look at like what that game was about, which is this big corporate guy bought the police and is trying to arrest all of the people on the street, or like enrapture them with sweet nothings to like get them on the side of like the establishment. And it's like, wow,
that doesn't.
That shit hasn't stopped being relevant at all.
I don't know, Todd. That doesn't sound that topical. We should leave.
One of the main villains, the recurring bosses that you fight, is just an insane police chief who just chases you with a revolver and shoots you and calls in tanks and other militarized police force. And it's like, get those fucking kids! I hate them so much. I hate how they express themselves. Like
those darn kids standing up to establishment. I don't know. That doesn't sound very relevant today.
It's so funny. It's so fun. It's cool. And I think like it goes to show what is like how big that space can be still, because I think that you mention these kinds of things in like indie games. You'll have conversations about it. I've been playing this game where it literally has like a reference to like Brexit, and like that's how modern the takes are.
Yeah.
But I want to see more of like stuff like Jet Set Radio Future, where it's just like let's put some money behind a game that like shreds off certain aspects of real life and focuses on these particular slices that it wants to have commentary about, and then also play in it, have fun.
Yeah,
like,
also have it be a good game. Yeah.
Like literally one of the first things that happens in Jet Set Radio Future is like you can pick up these spray cans that only the people with the soul of the streets can see. Like it's literally magic spray paint. But it's real because the graffiti that it makes is perceptible to the police. And that's just the thing that you accept off the fucking bat. Like one of the first things that happens is Gum is like, hey, what's up? I see you want to join our crew. I don't know though. Can you see those floating spray cans? Because if you can't, you have to go. Like,
like that's really cool how, because that works both as like a game mechanic, because like pick up the spray cans and stuff like that. But then it's also like it adds that heightened like sense of the world, and then like you can also like pick apart like unlimited spray paint. Like, wouldn't that be cool? Or like, what could you do to like fuck with the system like then? And like the game like uses that as a game mechanic.
Yeah. Exactly. I love it.
Yeah.
Every time I go back to that game, there's always something that I point out to myself. I'm like, oh man, that was something.
Is there like a good way to like play it nowadays? Like, has there been like a remaster or
No, it makes me so sad. I mean, like the fact that Jet Set Radio, the original, got remastered is already fucking crazy because of how much licenses that they had to pay for. They even there's a Rob Zombie song is on that, like the only Rob Zombie song that anybody knows, that I forget the name of.
Dracula?
Yeah, that one.
That's the only Rob Zombie song I know, so I figured I'd shoot for it.
Which you have to know is fucking expensive as shit, right? So that was just for the first game. And even then, there was a couple songs that they didn't get, if I recall correctly, which people were upset about. And so Future is, I don't even like one of the the groups that's heavily featured on the soundtrack called the Latch Brothers has one of the Beastie Boys in it. So like Sega's just not gonna pay for the license for something like that for a franchise that is beloved and but still in a sense is kind of niche.
Okay. Yeah, I still want to. I'll find a way to check that out.
Yeah. Well, to answer that question, actually, the original question, you can play it on 360. It'll chug like fucking crazy on a couple of levels, depending on where you're looking. So if you go on any of the like downtown levels and you look at the city parts, you're gonna chug. Like Route 99, you basically, or Highway 99, I forget what it's called. You basically can't see unless you look straight down and then skate towards the like inner parts of the level. Which is,
backwards compatibility.
It's kind of a problem for like a pseudo platforming game. So get it on Xbox.
Okay. Yeah, I'll have to look into that because that was the thing. Like before I asked you, like if you wanted to be like a guest on here, I was like, I need to figure out like how this show is gonna work. And before I even asked you, I was like, okay, I'm gonna have everyone like tell me their favorite game beforehand, and then like I'll go like if I've played it before, like that's good. But if I haven't played it, I'll like try and play it beforehand, or like at least like look up like footage of it so I'm informed. But I've kind of liked like having you like explain this stuff to me, and it also makes me like want to check it out and like. Maybe I'll have to like follow up with you if I play it to like give you my own thoughts on it.
Yeah, dude, please do. I think it's a very interesting take on an adventure game because it is, it's like 2000s open world where they just gave you chunks of a map that you could explore.
Simpsons hit and run style.
Yeah, pretty much. And it has a lot of like, okay, I don't know if I could call it really set pieces, but like there's combat where you're like you have to like I said, there's tanks. You have to like graffiti the tanks, which is you can just be shot by the tanks and you don't die immediately, which is insane, but also thankful because if that did happen, I would never play that fucking game. I would be very mad. Fucking insta deaths are not my friend. So there's just a lot of like ridiculous things in it. Like there's like you go into the sewers and then you go into the under sewers and there's all these characters to find. I don't know. It's just one of those kinds of adventures that I feel like it was contained but not small. And I miss that. I miss that. It's got playground vibes. But there wasn't. You couldn't just sit there and do anything or everything.
Yeah, they didn't. You know what I mean? They didn't pad it out with like an entire like open city. They focused on what like they were good at.
Yeah, and because of that, each area has its own identity. Like, whenever you go to a new map, you're like, okay, I kind of get the vibe here. Like, I think most people would probably immediately remember Shibuya Terminal because it's Shibuya, and that's what everyone. That's like, if people are like, do you know a city in Japan? Most people would probably say Shibuya. Probably that's probably a city, right? But that's like the big open playground. Like, there's all these rails and there's ramps and there's like hidden little platform areas and then there's like the buses and then you have to fight like a rival like quote unquote gang and like all this different stuff. So you remember that stuff. And then there's like places like Dogenzaka Hill, which are like just such unique vibes. Like it's always sunset there. All these rustic like shantytown style buildings. Like the whole map is kind of like slanted in a sense. It's got like there's like a helicopter fight that happens there. It's all this. There's all these like specific things that just kind of belong to that one part of the map. And so it makes each area like actually like feel standalone and like memorable. So they're not all just blending together. Yeah, it's one of the things that I've been really thinking a lot about. We're talking about Jet Set Radio Future, which is the answer to what is my favorite game. One of the things that I play a lot of open world games. I was reading this really interesting article on Polygon. Was there they were talking about how during this time of quarantine, all they want is to play open world games that are just like, go clear this bandit camp, upgrade your equipment, sneak into this person's house and steal their bananas, just like they just want to do that over and over again. And I'm like that too. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm also like, I'm playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I started Breath of the Wild over on Master Mode. I'm playing fucking Horizon Zero Dawn again. Like, I'm just like, oh yeah, I just want to check off some fucking quests.
That is 100% why I've been enjoying Ghost of Tsushima so much. I haven't like actually played an open world game in a little bit, and it has been so good to like scratch that itch and just like going through a checklist while you're like exploring. And there's a lot of like, I actually want to talk with you about this game at some point. I think it does some really interesting shit.
Sure.
But yeah, I totally get that, the like just having something to do, especially like in like quarantine and stuff like that.
And something I think so. Okay, but this is the point that I wanted to bring up.
Yeah.
So having played so many of these open world games, what I'm finding, and this is just me, I don't know, but what I'm finding is that the sort of interconnected nature of the space. Unless it's really well handled, and especially when if it isn't denoted in the environment, I think that interconnectedness actually can hurt your perception of the space that you're in. And I know that was a lot of vague terminology, so let me be more specific.
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed Odyssey takes place in Greece, right?
Yeah.
And, obviously it's a place that's noteworthy for its islands and how, how kind of disconnected a lot of the region is. Like, not just politically, but like physically. All these islands everywhere.
What's the name of that whenever it's like just the land?
Archipelago.
Like, archipelago.
So it's got all these different spaces, but there's only so many spaces that I've been in the game so far that really feel different. And part of that obviously is because it's still all Greece. So, it's like a lot of the rocks are very similar because it's the rock that makes up that environment. But then you have sort of like these war-torn areas, and then you have like Athens, and you're like, okay, this I remember. But like I've been playing and I'm in like Corinth versus like Megaris, and I'm like, this is not that different. This kind of just feels like two different smallish Greek cities. Not villages, but not, the fucking whatever time period that was, I forget, of equivalent of a metropolis. So it's kind of like, and then when you go between the two things, you don't feel like, I'm in a different space. And I think back to like, again, like to Jet Set Radio Future, or even the more blatant and obvious, and to a point, personally, not as good, games like Banjo or like Mario, where it's just like volcano place, ice place, second ice place. And I don't know, I miss that kind of thing. I think that from a game design perspective and from a environmental design perspective, it's just really strong to have somebody, however they get there, they go from place A to place B, and they go, fuck, this sure is place B.
That might be one of my favorite things about Breath of the Wild, is I feel they do a really good job of making all those areas feel like really distinct. Like, holy shit, I still remember like that area in the upper right of the map where like all the trees have like red leaves and stuff. Oh god, I forget where that is, but like I didn't go there till like later in my playthrough, and it was so cool to be like, oh my god, there's like a completely different Akala, yeah.
Is that it? Hold up.
I think it is it. Yeah, Akala. Like, I went there in the middle of a thunderstorm, and like it was just so cool to have been playing the game for so many hours and then come across an area that's like, oh shit, like all these, like all the vegetation here like looks different, and like it was so cool.
I mean, there's so many times in that game where I had that experience. It's really funny because I think it's extremely deliberate in terms of how big. I mean, also obviously you just can't have Hyrule Field not be anything more than a field because it is referential to previous designs of that space. But like you go from the field and and even like the Great Plateau it's not all samey, but it's not that expressive or vibrant of a place. It's like a big center piece, and then there's a mountain, and then there's kind of some ruins and some trees-ish area.
Yeah, it's like a more like condensed like tutorial like spot.
Yeah, it feels a little bit kind of like it feels like Bibimbap Bowl, where they're like, here's a bit of this, here's a bit of that, here's a bit of this, and they're all separated from each other.
Yeah.
And on top of a bed of rice. And then you go to like any fucking other area in the game, like outside of Hyrule Field, and it's like there's like a unique pathway, like a cliffside with bridges and like all these different like towers, or there's like the giant like fossil like savanna style area where like you might have, if you went that way, you might have run into Lionels before you even got to the fucking Zora domain. And like, obviously, I mean, the Zora domain is so unique, I don't even have to explain it. And like, not even just like, because you think about, the desert, and then the water place, and the volcano. But like, you even look at all the other areas, they have different like climates. Like looking at Faron is like totally different, A, than Faron has ever looked, and B, it's when you're entering it, and it's not even the same in terms of like deep into Faron versus entering Faron.
Yeah, it's very, they do like the transitions between the areas well too, and like have like memorable like the bridge between like Hylia and like the rest of Hyrule Field and stuff like that. The fact that Faron like technically is never required for like any of the actual like story related stuff, that blows my mind. They just were like, you know what, let's just throw in a completely unique like jungle area that like some people are just never gonna touch and will like never have to like that. It's so cool. I love that.
No, it's, and like that's but I think that is so huge. It's so huge.
It's so
and there's so many, like I remember so many little pieces of the game because of that. Like it was like, oh shit, like again, I was playing it again, so I'm going to these new areas, or not new personally, but like new in that save file, and being like, oh fuck, like I remember like the winding road to Gerudo, but I also remember when I went from Tabantha, south through the Gerudo Highlands, I climbed up into the mountains, and then like you look down over the desert, and it looks totally different. It looks like a completely different fucking place. You're like, is this the same desert?
Yeah.
But it is. It's just like, oh shit, like this is so great, because when you see it, you really are, you don't have to question that you will see a different experience there. And I think that that's the kind of thing that I think is so important. And obviously it's changed a lot. Like Breath of the Wild, I think has kind of done it, more or less has done it the best in my personal experience. But like going back again, I mean, just to keep it relevant in the conversation, like looking at Jet Set Radio Future, like there was never any doubt, except maybe some of the end game levels, where I was like, okay, I am in this Jet Set Radio-ified version of Tokyo. Like it feels like a different space in Tokyo, but it feels real. It feels like okay, these two areas would be connected, like Chuo Street versus like I said, versus just Shibuya Terminal. They play totally different. Chuo Street has like this whole rounded space that you can go around in a circle, and it has the like store that you can like literally skate through, and all these different little bits. But you were like, oh yeah, okay, I'm in a totally different place, and it plays different, and you remember it differently for that reason.
No, yeah, I definitely agree that having like just the unique areas and like having things like stand apart while still like connecting together, like that does so much for like your world building. And that's the thing. I guess I'm gonna use this to talk about Ghost of Tsushima a bit because it kind of does that a little bit.
Do it, Josh.
Okay, Ghost of Tsushima is the first game I've played where they didn't take Breath of the Wild as like a huge inspiration. Like it definitely is like more based on like the Ubisoft kind of like open world formula. But it's the first game where I can tell the developers like played Breath of the Wild and liked Breath of the Wild because it does like you can see just a few little things like with how they treat environmental puzzles and things that it's like, oh yeah, they totally like realized how Breath of the Wild did this was really good. Like they'll like I've been doing side quests where you need to like match up like ancient paintings of like where new armor's hidden and stuff with the actual environment to figure out like where they're hidden.
Yeah.
It's really good. But then so the other thing is I'm only in the first, I guess there's like 3 provinces or something on Tsushima Island. And so I'm only like in the first one. Like I need to beat the area boss before I can go higher up the island. But from what I've seen, like even though like it's obviously all a small Japanese island, like all of the areas have like different trees or different like foliage colors.
Yes.
And
love it.
Like, so like there's a specific area where it's like, oh, this is where the really thin like white birch trees are. And like, oh, this is like the golden forest and stuff like that. So it's like, it all very much has that like that wilderness of Japan feel, but like they definitely go out of their way where it's like, okay, if you're in this area, like, you know, you're in this general vicinity. Like they don't just have it where like, oh, you might find like these trees anywhere and like everything just looks the same. Like they do it kind of like to, obviously not to the degree of like, here's the lava place and here's like the desert and stuff. But like I
would be down for the lava samurai.
I'm hoping that actually that like later island or like further areas have a bit more craziness to it. But for now, I'm like, okay, that's like a pretty good way to like keep things separate without like going too like nuts with it.
Right. I love that. And actually, I know, I mean, I know we're supposed to be fighting still, but I think Emma's right that Mario Sunshine did a great job of that as well. And frankly, in a lot of ways, is the only Mario game that I've played where I was like, this is organic, but still immediately different.
Yeah,
and immediately recognizable, and it plays out in the gameplay and in the kind of puzzles and like in adventure and platforming that is featured in each level, and I think that that's excellent.
Yeah, I mentioned this in that video that you were watching and called me out on, but like I've come around on Mario Sunshine being jankier than I remember, but I do still really I like that aspect of it, that like it keeps to that theme of like Mario's on a tropical vacation. Like it doesn't launch him off island to like an ice area or something like that. Like every area is like keeps to that like Mario on vacation motif, but like has a twist on it. Like here's the amusement park, here's the harbor, here's the hotel. And then like I love the fact you can like see the different areas. Like if you look off like on the beach, you can see like further down the beach like, oh, there's like the theme park and stuff. I really like that.
I'll never get over that shit. I'll never get over that in any game. Like I know the whole like, see there, you can go there. I will never get over it. If it's good, I'll never get over it.
Have you played Banjo-Tooie?
No, I can't with those.
No,
I can't listen to the constant honking when I'm trying to run. No, just literally just Kazooie honking the entire time you're fucking running. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I'm gonna kill you. Don't make me do it. I will kill you on your own stream.
So
Halo 3 did lie. That's right, Taylor. It fucking lied. Sorry. That's right.
I will say, on a hypothetical level, something I really liked about Banjo-Tooie is so it had Banjo-Tooie was structured like most like collectathons from that era were, where it's like you have the hub world and then you go into like the individual worlds. And so like in the original Banjo-Kazooie, each of the individual worlds was like completely separate. So it's like you go through Gruntilda's lair, you go into Gobi's Valley. Oh, it's the desert world. You get like the 10 things to the desert world. You come back out, you're back in Gruntilda's lair. But Banjo-Tooie has it that like they kind of darks. Oh my God, I'm comparing Banjo-Tooie to Dark Souls. Kill me now. But they do the Dark Souls thing of like the areas are interconnected with each other. In that like, so you can go to like Witchy World, which is like the theme park place, do the transformation thing there to turn yourself into a laundry truck, go through a secret exit to go to the caveman world, and then do the caveman's laundry as like one of the puzzles.
That's freaking excellent.
Yeah, it like Banjo-Tooie it goes a bit too far with like making Collectathon bigger and better and stuff like that. Like it has kind of the Donkey Kong 64 problem in some aspects. But I've always liked like that specific feature of it is that you had to like, there was crossover puzzles between some of those worlds, and it would be like, like this character in one world is like really upset they don't have a burger and fries. This level does have a place you can buy burger and fries, so you need to like get that and take it over to the other spot. And it like just a bit more connectivity than I think you'd usually get with like collectathons.
I love that. I like that's the thing. Like talking about a game like I guess just the key. I don't know. Josh, you have to tell me when I have to let this go. But so until then, I'm gonna keep bringing it back. Talking about a game like just a Radio Future, that's one of the things I would love to see it evolve on, because I think, and this is maybe I don't know how much of a jump this is, or a leap of faith, but one of the things that Mirror's Edge 2 or whatever the fuck it was called, Mirror's Edge Catalyst, thank you, tried to do was something that I think that a game like Jet Set Radio Future really could really expand on, is trying to put people in places and do exactly what you're talking about, where it's like this area has this kind of thing and this person in this area needs something that they can't get in their area, right? Like that's your typical open world stuff. Yeah. I think when you have such, I think you can get away with having looser puzzles and more personal, like thoughtful, referential based kind of puzzles when you have such clearly defined spaces. Because then it's like, oh, okay, like which area might I be able to find this thing in? Yeah,
it's like kind of like that Metroid. Oh God. Yeah, like it's like, oh, once you get this item, like you immediately realize, oh, this will let me do this thing.
Right, exactly. It's like, okay, if I have, I mean, in Metroid, obviously, I think, as one of the originators, sometimes it's a little unclear. But like usually it's like, okay, I need to take the plasma thing to the cold place or stuff like that. Or it's like, I have the various suit, I can now be in the hot place.
Yeah, when I use it as an example, I mean, like, that's like at the most base level. And then these games are like putting that into actual like character puzzles and stuff like that.
And that's the kind of thing that I think Catalyst should have done. It didn't really do. It ended up more on the unfortunate end of open worlds, where they made an open world that you become more familiar with, but don't really benefit in terms of actual establishment in that world from that closeness, and that intimacy. And I think that that's something that if they ever did a Jet Set Radio again, that's what I would want to see more of, because I think there is some of it. Like, I think it is actually, I think it is actually Dogenzaka Hill. But like, there's a character that you can find. Is it? No, it's not Dogenzaka. I forget what it's called. But there's a place where, like, if you're just skating around and you do like the main story thing, there's obviously, well, you don't know this. Every level has like 5 goals that you can complete after you unlock a mystery tape. Or you find this mystery tape.
Yeah.
You can complete 5 different goals to get graffiti souls, which you need to do various things, and also to unlock more graffiti styles.
Okay.
But outside of just like skating around and kind of trying to accomplish those things and like looking at the actual geometry of the level, like, okay, how can I grind for 10 seconds uninterrupted? How can I get my combo this high? You can find like characters who are like just in the world. And that's the kind of thing where I'm like, in Distant Radio Future, basically you find them, they kind of either they talk to you or they'll run away from you, and you have to kind of like, play horse to kind of get to them, where they'll like all different jumps to get to this interesting area, and you're like, okay, well, I have to follow them to try and challenge them and then add them to the team or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, if you level that up and like these characters sort of had things to do in the space without going full, I don't think you would have to go full Majora's. They don't need to wake up in their apartment and skate down to the arena,
but have some kind of life outside of the player.
Yeah, that like changed the space in some way.
Yeah,
I think that's the kind of thing that I would love to see, because I think that it would pair up with what I think Just Rid of Future maybe it wasn't necessarily able to deliver on explicitly, but in terms of like themes of the street and in particular of community, and like, here's how we take care of people who are disenfranchised by these, our corporate overlords, literally in the case of the game. And I think it'd be a great way to expand on that and look at like, what does that look like? Like, what does taking care of these people look like? Because I think you look at obviously all the crazy shit that's happening today, and you see in blatant context what that looks like.
Yeah, I think that like a game like that is probably more important than ever right now.
Right, and obviously like I was, I mean, it's I think with a game like Just Rid of Future, they would never necessarily be so explicit about it, which is fine.
Yeah,
I think
I think like
that's fine. It's I get it. But I think it's kind of thing that they can carry those themes in, and they can use it to inspire the design, like the missions. And I think I would love it if Sega would do that. If they would do it for me.
Do a third game for Todd, Sega. Do it.
Oh, I want the game.
I think that like that's really interesting that this game like has that distinct aesthetic and that distinct kind of philosophy behind it. Like if it did come out in like 2002, because I think that's like really interesting that like once like we got the tech for like cell shading and stuff, you were able to do more ambitious things and kind of like embody like certain cultural aspects and stuff like better once the technology improved. And for like a game to do it like that early, like in the GameCube era and stuff, is really impressive. Whenever like a lot of games won't even go that far now.
Yeah, no, it's funny to think about that game in the 2000s. It really. It's not like it was out of place it wasn't out of place in terms of like the time period, right? But I think it just didn't make it high enough to be recognized for what it was trying to do in its relevance to the times.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Like, okay, this is something that I was thinking about after watching the lovely Mitch, aka Heavy X-Eyed. I wish you would just make your name fucking Mitch.
Love that man.
Mitch Kramer, soft talking boy on the internet. He had this video talking about how we talk about games has changed over the years, and I think Distant Rid of Future is a perfect example of a game that showed up before the level of critical analysis and cultural relevance behind games was being explored to the degree that it was merited.
Oh my, yeah, like if the game had come out when people were making video essays.
Right. Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
And like even me, I didn't even talk about that nature of the game in my video. I talked about it from a gameplay perspective, which I have no regrets about.
Oh yeah.
I stand by it, and also it was fun to do a DJ Professor K impression. But it's the kind of thing where it's like if that game had come out now, I mean, even if it was like take the game, literally as it is, as like let's just say indie game instead, probably.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you look at like its current contemporaries, and you look at like Neon Tail, which is being made by like I think one person, and looks either the same or better.
Yeah.
Like visually speaking. And you're like, fuck, that's crazy. So if you think of that game as coming out now, today, this year, I mean, it would be insane. There would be so much conversation. Like, and it wouldn't, and not even just in terms of like praise. There would be all the gaps of like, well, it's, you know, people would want to come at it and say like, is it harsh enough on the police? Is this too much of a fantasy?
Exactly. Like there'd be so much conversation started by it.
Exactly. There'd be so many, and because we have all these lenses to access a game like this that we didn't have, or not that we didn't have them,
but
we didn't
it wasn't
employ.
Yeah.
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 And I think that it's, I mean, it's so interesting. It's like, man, what if Sega was like, here's the game again, then suddenly, you know, your polygons, your waypoints, you know, even your Kotakus, etc. I mean, I could be naming actual writers, but you know, these sort of platforms would definitely be like, well, let's talk about this, because this game is literally about people being like, fuck the cops. It's just fuck the police, the game in a certain sense.
Yeah, and yeah, that would get so much discussion like today. And actually, that. I have a question for you. Do you think that like games discourse right now is better than it was like at the start of last console generation? So like like we're about to get into like the era of like the Xbox Series X, like PlayStation 5 and stuff.
Okay. But so first of all, I think we have grown. I think unequivocally. I don't think that there's really a room for argument about that. We have grown. I think we're still exploring. I think we're still learning how to talk about games like that. And beyond that, we're learning how to hear about games like that. We're learning how to read about games like that in terms of like, you know, is an article about one chapter of The Last of Us a legitimate piece of criticism? Yes, it is. But that doesn't mean that the culture at large understands the merit of treating games like that, because we, you know, I think in a lot of senses, part of gaming culture has always been being small, right? And obviously it's fucking not anymore. It's giant. Yeah. And that can't go back. But I think people still hold on to that identity of like, well, we're not film, we're not books, we're not blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And I don't know. I think people still maybe haven't necessarily got over that, or not even got over that. Like, even if they don't ideologically have some kind of issue with those kinds of pieces, they just might not feel like reading about them from some random person that they haven't developed an attachment to.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I think we definitely I think we've come further than, because I remember
you were going all fuzzy.
Am I going fuzzy? I don't know.
You went all fuzzy. It sounded like you got absorbed by a dishwasher.
Am I less fuzzy now?
Yeah, okay. You're good.
I that's been something I've been thinking about a lot, because I feel like the games industry itself seems to be getting into a better spot than especially we were like this time last generation. Because I remember like going into like the Xbox One and like PS4, and it just all seemed to be so much of like more of the same. Going
into that generation was like the least excited I've ever been.
Like it wasn't a hype thing, because it was like, okay, graphics are like kind of prettier, But like,
Yeah.
but it was all just like, yes, more third-person shooters and like microtransactions were like just becoming a big thing and like
Oh yeah.
didn't seem to be slowing down. Whereas I feel like now, like
Well,
you
sorry.
go
I was gonna
first.
say, even looking specifically at the game you're playing right now, Ghost of Tsushima, like you look at that game and everything I've seen about it, and the conversation is about is it letting people down? Like that's the conversation about that game. Like it's one of those games where it's like it looks like on paper it's an easy 8 to start. Like if we're talking about the era of games criticism, at the beginning of this generation, that's a free 8 to start.
Yeah.
Free 8. I mean, just like, it has stealth and samurai, and it's beautiful. That's an 8. Like, it's just where you start.
Yeah.
And now we're having this conversation of, is it too close to a Ubisoft game? Is it too whatever, I don't know the phrase. We haven't come up with a Metroidvania, like, similar phrase for it yet. Somehow. Ubi World kind of game. But it's one of those things where, like, and I think that's pissed a lot of people off. But I think it's interesting, and I think that it's a critical point of discussion that should be had. And like, so to answer again, to bring it back, I think that is absolutely a space of, like, a level of growth that is like a big nice chunk on top of what we did before.
Yeah, I feel like we're in such
ubiquitous.
we're in
That's
such
good.
like a better spot from like the actual like game standpoint, I think, because people like things have gotten so much more impressive, and then like even like the launch lineups and everything that's been kind of like teased so far like seems so much more varied than like the Order 1666 for the PlayStation 4.
Oh my God, I
or
forgot about that.
like stuff like that.
Something?
Like oh God, I want to know what Halo Infinite is.
Oh yeah,
I-
that's gonna be something.
Yeah, I just want to know like what direction they're going with that. But
We'll fucking see. Halo is we could have a whole.
I'll take you. I'll have you back for another episode. We'll talk about Halo sometime.
Talk about Halo.
But yeah. I feel like I think the games are in a better spot, and I think like what people are doing in terms of games criticism is definitely in a better spot. But I think we still have a ways to go with like the overall gaming culture. But I hope hope that the like those other two things, like having gone forward so much, like leads to like actual gaming culture moving forward, like just on a bit of a lag.
It will.
I think so too. Like I'm optimistic about it.
I think that's the thing. Like, I think this is, we're in the middle of a lot of tumultuous, turbulent things, socially speaking, but specifically in the games world, like we went from this space of like, and again, I'm gonna keep bringing up stuff from Mitch's video because I just watched it. But like, we're coming out of this space of like looking at organizations and platforms of authority, like G4 and like GameSpot, and being like, these are the pillars of games, and IGN, like not just games criticism, but like this is where you go to care about games, in a certain sense, and not just for your niche stuff like your forums, and your game specific, nowadays obviously Discords, but like the chat rooms or whatever that you would get into. It's like that, but that was like the outposts in the outskirts. This was like the mecca, like this is the cities, and now we're in this space where like there's way more. There's just like nerds on YouTube who may just have a great point.
There's an indie scene for it now.
Yeah, and they might be able to come at it from an angle that some big thing didn't come from, and that's valid, and that opens up some of the conversation even more. And it's at a point where like you can have a banger of a video that's a total. It's still an editorial piece, but it's totally unrelated to whether or not you should buy the game. And I think basically didn't have that for a very fucking long time.
God. Like whenever
very long time.
Like whenever I guess we started YouTube around the same time, but like the only thing you could do is like reviewing an old video game was like the extent of like the criticism that like would happen at the start. I feel like in the early days of YouTube, at least in our area.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I don't know. I just think it's really fucking cool because I think also it pairs with what my buddy's saying, Metaphorster in the chat, that there's so much more because the audience has expanded so much, and like not just because the audience has expanded, though it has, but because that audience has also then found spaces and games that represent those interests.
Exactly.
Like I think we didn't really even have the phrase cozy games until like the last maybe 5 years and maybe even less time than that.
Yeah, like
and
that's
like
been a this gen thing.
Exactly. Even though the games being referenced in that category, some of them are very old. Like Harvest Moon is a very old franchise, but you know, you can in a lot of ways Harvest Moon and the fucking Animal Crossing are like these major pillars of that genre. And now, you know, we're huge. Like we have all these random indie games like My Time at Portia, Stardew, like, and there are all these different like take on that kind of style. I mean, Ooblets is in early access and it's 3 kinds of cozy game wrapped in one. And so now, you know, again, like you have these new people, not new necessarily, but people who feel like they belong now rather than kind of being like, that game is good and I don't care about any of the other games. It's like, now I'm being catered to. My money is being sought after by the people who are making these games. And so because of that, the room for conversation has broadened outside of just everyone who already knows what stuff is.
I love that. And that's so exciting to me that we're like living in like the early days, like comparatively, like compared to other like art forms, like compared to like cinema's like 100 years old. Video games, like mainstream video games, are like 35 to 40 or whatever.
It's basically 35.
Yeah, like around there.
They're basically as old as Mario. They're like, basically as old as Mario.
Like, I brought this up in a stream earlier, and I got some critiques on like when exactly it happened. But like for all intents and purposes, like video games as like a cultural thing probably like started around like Mario and like arcades and everything. And so like we've gotten to see like this this medium like evolve, and like now we are starting to treat it more and more like an actual art form, with all of like the criticism and different like intersectional analysis and like everything that entails, and like having the art more be like there's something for everyone. It's not just like buy your space shooters on your Xbox 360.
And it's opening up, and like I mean, as we're to deepen the subject on the subject of intersectionality, it deepens the critical striking points of games that can be unrelated to, is this game good? Is this game worth buying? Because like you could look at a game like Jet Set Radio Future, like I was saying earlier, like it is an anti-establishment game. You can look at that game through that lens and say, is it an anti-establishment game? To what degree does it make that point? To what degree do you experience that playing the game? And I'm sure there's a conversation to be had on whether or not it delivers at all, or if it's just borrowing off of hip hop and streetwear and, you know, graffiti and the anti-authority sort of like. But the fact we can like
can have those conversations now, and people like can debate those is like that's so good and so exciting.
And not even just to do it. And not be sort of guffawed at for being like, why would you care? But you can make money off of it. I mean, the video does well enough. You know, if you have a Patreon, it counts, or if it gets views, it counts, or you know, you show up on a podcast, and the podcast it's like, oh, this is an interesting episode, and it gets around, it gets articles made out of it. You know, this is all a space that just didn't fucking exist.
Yeah.
you can still be guffawed. That's true.
Oh yeah.
I don't think you can escape that on YouTube no matter what you say.
Yeah, you'll get your occasional guffaw.
Yeah. I think, like, in terms of how do I feel about the last generation versus this generation, I literally don't know what either of the new consoles can do. I haven't watched any. The thing I'm the most interested in that I know of is that they're putting an Overcooked bundle on the Xbox, whatever 5, and that's it. I don't know the other stuff. That's how checked out I've been.
Ah shit. I half want to give you an update because I'm actually like really excited about. Like I think the tech jumps.
Hit me.
Yeah, the stuff that's happening with this next console generation is way more exciting than the jump from like the Xbox 360 to Xbox One, like PS3 to PS4, was like so much smaller than I think this jump's gonna be, because they've announced like a lot of exciting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But oh god,
ray tracing.
Yeah, so well, there is like the actual like tech things. Like ray tracing is exciting because it's like they're not faking how lighting works in games anymore. Like it's more accurate. Yeah. So it's one of those things where it's like it's really nitty gritty tech stuff, but it's like the thing that makes like Pixar movies like look so good these days is like how good their lighting is. But like the real thing that's been exciting me about the new consoles is just like the ease of use that that Microsoft in particular really seems to be pushing. Like I think Microsoft had a really like the Xbox One's an iffy console in my opinion. But
dude, that dashboard's a fucking nightmare.
Oh god. But basically what they've said is that like every single game that was like backwards compatible on or that like works on Xbox One will also work on the next one. Anything you've bought before automatically gets upgraded to the next thing, or like to the ideal version for whatever console you have. And
sexy
like
version.
Sexy version. The sexy version, yeah. And just like all the Xbox Game Pass deals. And then on top of that, like both the new consoles apparently like just aren't going to have loading times anymore.
we don't need to load anymore.
Like, but I've actually seen like articles from game developers being like, we need to figure out like how to convey the information that's usually in loading screens, because that's not going to be a thing next gen.
Dude, you know what they're gonna do? Mm-hmm. It's the return of Omochow, man. Just put a little fucking wind-up toy in the level, and you just walk up to it. And it's
I would be okay with that.
You can hold the X and the Y buttons to do a backflip. Like that's what's gonna happen. It's gonna be great.
I would actually I'm interested to see though, like if tutorials are gonna become like
they have to change.
Yeah, like there's gonna have to be some kind of thing, because that's been like the default for the past like 2 generations is little gameplay tips that you might not know naturally. We'll just sprinkle them there.
Yeah. I think that's gonna be really interesting. I don't know. It's gonna be very interesting because I think something that modern games can sometimes struggle with is breathing, and just breathing, not just like let's put a conversation here or a cutscene here or something like that to stop whatever action is happening, but like spaces in the game to do boring or nothing things. And not every game struggles with this, but sometimes it's just like, fuck, man, I feel like I gotta keep going.
Yeah, there's no downtime.
Think that exactly, or there isn't a time where that's what it seems like you should do is like run around and not do like think about like level-based games, right? Like a Crash Bandicoot, right? How many times have you caught yourself just running in circles in the level select area and just being like, wait, what am I doing? And you may not think about it that way, not you, but like people may not think about it that way, but you need that time.
No, I would totally agree with that.
pick like character select screens, level select screens. Like in Mario Kart, when you're like, oh, don't want this kind of cart, don't want that kind of cart. These kinds of times to do those sorts of things that even like that can be kind of small. Like obviously in Mario Kart, I guess as an example, there are stats, but like you could just be like, oh, this looks cool, that looks cool, but not necessarily like something like Borderlands where you're like doing fucking math the entire time, because that's still doing something, and for some people that math is very labor intensive if you're not good at math or build construction. And so it's gonna be very interesting to see the load times disappear.
Yeah, cause I don't think you can just do like, oh, I can fast travel here, and like not have any kind of like downtime. like you.
That's really funny to think about. Oh my god, literally just fast traveling.
Like, but
boom,
that's
it's like fucking Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, that's actually like stuff they'll be able to do though. So, but the thing is, like, should they do that? They like.
Oh my god.
I'm genuinely interested to see like what's gonna become like the game design. Like what's going to be like the downtime now? And that was the other thing. Like someone was joking about it in chat, but like legitimately, like those things in every like AAA game where like your main character has to like squeeze through a thing.
Yeah.
So that like your camera's like.
Right.
Like that, they don't have to do that anymore.
Tomb Raider has so many of those.
Oh god.
Gears of War and Tomb Raider are like the two that I think of where it's like you guys aren't even hiding them.
Yeah, no. Ghost of Tsushima even does it. Like they have so many just like, oh, you want to get up on top of this hill? You got to go inside the hill and sneak. It's one of my favorite ones of those, as if someone could catalog their favorite loading screen hiders. My favorite hidden loading screen.
Favorite, loading screen hiders.
That's the second part of this podcast. What's your favorite loading screen in Jet Set Future?
It's literally just like a radio sound that says loading. Okay, but no, one of my favorite ones is fucking Firewatch, where to get up even like a fucking, not even a foot high step, he bends all the way down and looks at the ground, and then like he puts his hands down and looks at the ground and then pulls himself up. And I'm like, bro.
I forgot about that. Holy. I had like blocked Firewatch from my memory. Oh my god.
I love. There's a lot of stuff I love about Firewatch.
I really enjoy that game.
Like, this is a great. You might as well have had him like fucking put on like a plastic, like a paper bag over his head real quick. Just like, okay, let me just. Made me laugh so much. I was like, nice.
Fucking
nice.
What if they do?
Metroid, the door's not working.
What if they wind up like coming out with like a Mass Effect trilogy remaster and just like you go in the elevator and it's like.
That's what I was gonna say. When is Samus gonna reflect on her life anymore? She's never gonna say anything now. There's not gonna be any time for her to think. She's just gonna be fucking shooting things for 20 hours of gameplay. No, I think Metaforce is right. They're gonna have to fake it for transition. But what I like about that is like, like we're saying it, fake it for transition, right? But what really is going to happen instead, and I wish that this could happen before then, and maybe it has, because obviously I'm not a dev, and I am not a dev on any game that has come out to this point, so I don't even know the specific games who might have already done that. But I think that now, since it's no longer a technical imperative, instead people will approach it with this sort of design.
Yeah, I like
the design impact that it has. So they'll say, "Oh, okay, now we can think about this intentionally."
Yeah,
where do we put these breaths?
Yeah, it's a conscious choice on where you can put these like downtime things, because where you are in the game isn't a factor as much anymore.
Exactly. No, totally exactly. And I think that will be good. I mean, especially for AAA, right? Because obviously, who knows how it's gonna affect indies. But like these games that are just like big giant games. Like I'm playing Odyssey, and I had like the weirdest experience, because in this entire game where you can just walk into everything, there's this one part that I've come to in the middle of this giant fortress where there's a closed door, and you press a button, and there's a loading screen to go into a tiny room.
What the fuck?
And I was like, what is this? This is fucking crazy.
I'm almost like charmed whenever I come across stuff in games that seems like a little bit too dated compared to what the rest of the game is doing.
Yeah, the whole game is like just you go in and you go out onto the boat, into the mountains, doesn't matter, it's whatever, get on the horse, get off the horse, go into a giant tomb, dive into a cave. But this person's one little fucking
They couldn't
tiny,
fit
like,
this
closet.
person's house into the world map.
So, and I'm sure that there's a reason, obviously there's obvious reason, but I'm sure that there's like an interesting reason or like one where we're like, we have to solve this. But it's so, I was just like, this is, I made like, that GIF reaction of Andy when he finds out that someone's pregnant on Parks and Rec, and he makes the that smile.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I had it happen to me, and I was like, ooh.
Oh.
It's like, what is happening here? Oh, man.
Not to keep talking about Ghost of Tsushima, but like kind of in a similar vein, just every now and then you'll come across like one of the side missions where they keep the camera like super far back, and you can tell they did that just so they wouldn't have to do any lip syncing or like fancy animations. Like it's like GTA 4 or like GTA San Andreas levels of like, hey Jin, could you go check out this place for me? I heard there was some Mongols there. Not exactly like that in Ghost of Tsushima, but like that whole vibe of like, this is your like introduction to a small side quest like cutscene.
Dude, I love it.
And
I'm still
it's nostalgic to me by this point.
That's what I'm saying though. That's the thing. Going back to one of our original conversation points, right? Is I think that still can do more. Like if you look at like just like a game like Just a Radio, and just like their faces are just, there's like 4 mouth shapes, and they just randomly change. They have there's no lip syncing. It's just, is this character talking right now? Is the, they're now done talking, in the mouth it's just like beep, boop, bop, boop, beep. It's like, I feel like that can in a lot of ways be far more expressive than actual lip syncing if your style is properly utilizing it. And so I think it's so interesting looking at that indie space and like the games that are trying to do things like that, and even like not even necessarily that. It'll be very interesting to see. It hasn't happened. It probably won't ever happen. But it'd be really interesting to see if we get more of that like A-tier game that actually like makes an impact, that could use those kinds of aesthetics to simplify and shrink the like artistic load. Not to say that it's easier, but just like physically less complicated models and animation. But still have the same scale in terms of the size of the game and like how much content is in it. It'll be really interesting to see if that space gets developed with technology being more accessible and like as we were talking about the greater diversity of people buying games. Yeah. It's like, hey, if we make, if we're Ubisoft or whomever, EA, Microsoft, and we're like, why don't we just make a fucking Stardew?
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't have to be as big as Animal Crossing. It doesn't have to be as big as fucking, any of our big tentpole games.
There is no way that Electronic Arts hasn't looked at how much money Nintendo must be making off like Animal Crossing New Horizons and like doesn't want in on that. Like there's there's definitely an audience for like these types of games and for more diverse kinds of games.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I will be shocked if we don't start seeing more games, or at the very least more of these big companies basically buying, as they do, buying other companies and saying, you guys are making our, you're our Camelot. You're gonna make all of our Mario sports games, but like what or whatever. Oh, see what?
That is one thing I want the games industry to eventually get from the film industry. I know it'll never be like an exact comparison, but like the fact that the film industry has like, if you do a really good indie film, like the big companies want you like directing like a blockbuster or one of like their middle tier movies, like like Taika Waititi and like Ryan Coogler and stuff like that on the MCU. And so like I kind of wish that would happen a bit more in games, where like
that's what happened with People Can Fly, and then they got fucked over.
Yeah, like as long as I want it to happen without like games industry shittiness happening. But like literally
exactly.
like Toby Fox like kicked ass with Undertale. Like Toby Fox like should have had game companies like showing up on his front door and saying like, we will give you like $50 million to do whatever you want to do, just like we get to publish it. Like don't take creative control. But like I hope that becomes a thing, like bigger companies funding like projects like that from successful indie creators. I think that would be
it's kind of so in some ways that sort of happens because like and I don't know how similar it is across the other two, but Microsoft Game Studios basically more or less does that with like certain indies like Ori and the Blind Forest. Moon Studios got like just so much support from Microsoft Game Studios because they published with them. Yeah, well, that's why, like, you think about you think about Ori, and you're like, I know this is an indie game, but what the fuck?
Yeah.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah, they had the budget to go above and beyond, like, give all the polish. The fucking music.
It's like a full orchestra. It's fucking insane. And so, you know, when you think about even just looking at, like, Killer Instinct, right, which is also, like, in-house Microsoft, it's like these games basically seem like they have the same budget, which is insane. And maybe they did, I don't know. But it's kind of thing where like, no, I totally agree with you. I think we need to see more of that. And I would like to see it. I would like to see it not just to have that happen, but I think you're kind of referencing this, but to have it happen explicitly. Like we are backing these people. We are backing this person. We are backing this org. Like we are backing them. We are here saying, look, yes, we want to put our stamp on this, but it's only because we believe in it and we just want a little cut of whatever the fuck they're going to make. Because whatever the fuck they're going to make, it's going to be worth it.
Yeah, like that might just be like a difference in like optics or something, but I think it does like sound better to be like, we really fucking like what Toby Fox or like what team whatever is doing. Like we want, we believe in that and we want to support like up and coming game developers, rather than being like, oh, Toby Fox made a good game, okay, we want to buy you as an Xbox studio now. Like that's still good because obviously like they're getting to make great games with it, but like I would like them to be able to like keep their identity as much as possible as well, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's room for that, especially because you're looking at like part of the reason I think that maybe that doesn't happen, or we don't know if that happens. Is because of how fluid like employment is, and as well as like project assignment seems to be, where it's like, you know, I don't follow everybody, obviously it's impossible, but I follow a good handle of like devs, and some of them are indie and some of them are at like AAA companies, and it's, you know, you kind of just go, you just like, okay, you're done here, we need you on this, now you're doing this, you're working on that, and you read all these stories about how games go from like 4 people to 20 people to 100 people to 500 people, all the way back to like 15 people. And you're like, how, you know, and so if these big companies, they're this massive umbrellas, they have all these smaller companies where they mix and match, they move people around, you know, I can imagine that it's hard to be like, okay, well, I don't know, Samantha and George, you're going to work on this like weird B budget, like Jet Set Radio clone. You guys can just go do that, and then when it's done, I guess just let us know, and we'll put you back in the hopper. It's like, on Halo.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like that doesn't really. I get why if I was a creative director or production designer, that I wouldn't want to be taking my salmon out of the stream at random times when it's like, well, I don't know, it might be time to lay eggs, guys.
Yeah.
So I get that, and I think that like what you're kind of talking about would be a solution of just like, look, we think these people got their shit together. We're just gonna back them.
Yeah. You guys do your shit. We'll pay your salaries. Go nuts.
or whatever. Just
Yeah.
like, here's $100,000, like this,
Yeah,
right? Like,
yeah.
here's your salaries for 2 years. We want this percent, end of story.
Give us a game, please.
You're right. Give the people a game and us a little bit of money.
Yeah. It works out.
Yeah. Yeah. Because then we would get more Jet Set Radios. Damn
Yes. That's looping it back around.
it. I refuse to let it go.
Is there any like parting thoughts you'd have on Jet Set Future or anything else? I guess we've been talking about. I like how we like kind of like went through a whole bunch of different topics, kind of spinning off from this.
Dude, you're gonna have. I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna pull my ego out. You're gonna have a hard time getting that kind of fluidity from anyone that's not me, Josh.
Yeah, no. I'm gonna be disappointed with my next few episodes. Shit.
Everybody get ready. It's gonna be like,
I'm talking anyone that ever plans to be on this show, you better be twice as well spoken as Todd. God damn it. No amateur. No
amateur shit.
No, this was a really good conversation. I really enjoyed it.
I had a great time. This is obviously, in all seriousness, this is like my shit, right? I mean, if you weren't streaming right now, this would be no different from how we just have conversations.
Exactly,
anyway.
yeah. Like I love talking about this shit anyways, and I just like, I don't know. I've been trying to, once I'd gotten back on track with like, okay, I can stream like kind of consistently again, and like I'm putting the archives up on YouTube pretty good. Like I was really trying to find an angle to like do game design discussion and stuff again, and not have it just be myself. And so I really like this, like talking with other people and like getting their perspectives, because now I really fucking want to try out like Jet Set Future.
Dude, fucking do it. It's dope. I don't know. That game, we really didn't even get too much into the mechanics, which is fine. We don't have to. I think it's one of those games where like you'll start playing it and you're like, okay, I get it. I get how this game works, and I'm into it. Or you'll be either I'm into it or I'm not into it. But it's one of those things, I think, with a game like Jet Set Radio Future, where it existed, it was born in a time with no contemporaries, and it continues to have very little contemporaries outside of the ones that explicitly reference it as a source of inspiration. Like, you look at like Neon Tail, if you look at Lethal League, you look at what's it called? Fucking Hover, Revolt of Gamers. If you look at the last one I'm trying to think of, the Xbox One, Sunset Overdrive.
Yes. Yeah.
All of those games, you can see the Jet Set Radio in them. You can see it.
Yeah.
You can, and for some of them, it's explicit. Like Hover literally has, what's his name? Hideki Naganuma on the track. Like, he literally was like, I worked on this game as as soundtrack. Like, he made like 3 tracks of the game or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's like, this game has like, the genre can't escape this game.
Yeah,
like,
it's so influential.
It's that influential, and it's that. That shit is just fucking inspiring.
Yeah, no, like
it really is. Without being something as massive as a Zelda, as a Mario, I think like you can look at games like Dark Souls, like Animal Crossing, and you can be like, those games are that influential. Like, there's not that many games where it's like all the games that remind me of this game are still that close. That's my closing statements, sir.
No, that was a pretty good closing statement. But no, I very much agree with that. I think I'm really excited to check out that game now.
Do it.
Todd.
Everybody should do it.
If the people want to find you, if there's anything you want to plug, where should they find you? / what are you plugging?
Dude, well, I'm on Twitter at Toddly_enough. There's that. I used to stream. I don't really stream anymore. Not saying I'll never stream, but I'm Toddly enough here as well. Same with the underscore. And I'm on YouTube as Todd Schlickbernd, I think. Is just like, I think I'm just there as my name. Or it might be Toddly enough. I don't remember anymore. But you can check that out.
Some kind of Todd.
Yes.
In the YouTube version of this, I'll throw it up on screen or whatever.
There you go. Bam.
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 Okay.
Well,
thank
it was lovely
you.
chatting with you, my dude.
This went so well. I'm really excited about this. Thank you for being an amazing guinea pig, Todd.
Yeah, man. Dude, I'm all about it. That's what they call me. Back in high school, they were like, oh, there's Skinny Todd. Off he goes.
He's an A+ guinea pig.
Ready to be experimented on.
Oh, yeah. Like, legit, I would like to have you on here, like, again sometime. Pick a new favorite game, and we'll call you, like, Rod Dickburn, and you can come back
Yes.
on.
Yes.
Talk about Halo.
I feel like I have to find, I have to find a board game at that point, but I will. I don't know if I've never played a game like that, but I'll find one. No, yeah, absolutely. There's so many I could, like, we touched on so many games that I could talk forever about.
Yeah.
I could talk about Breath of the Wild for an actual day. For an actual day.
Let's charity stream that sometime.
Yeah. No, honestly, I think I could do it. I have to heal my voice, but I think you could put the time together, and it would be a day.
A full day? You know what? I'm gonna write that down. I'll circle back to you.
It's 24 hours of talk. No, nobody plays the game.
Yeah, fuck gameplay. Who does that? Just talking about Breath of the Wild. I like that idea.
Halfway through, we have the dissenters, where it's a bunch of people who either don't like or have major complaints about Breath of the Wild, and then we come back, and then we have all the people who really love it, newly invigorated to counter argument, and it's gonna be it'll be like a fucking symposium.
By the end of it, we'd be like, I'm never touching a Zelda game again.
Right. You'd be like, I don't want to play this game. I don't want to talk to any of you ever again.
I'm done. I quit. Becoming a hermit in the woods with my Game Boy.
Yeah. You'd be like, all right, I got to go back to the therapist. I'm all fucked up again.
All that work undone.
All the work undone.
Oh, God. Okay,
Good
well,
times.
Thank you for coming on the stream, Todd.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Thanks,
time.
people in the chat. Hope you guys were entertained.
Yeah, thank you, chat, for being awesome.
Yeah. Very nice of you. Go play. If you can't play Distant Radio Future, check out some of those contemporaries. Hover, Neon Tail, Lethal League, all those dope games.
Support those indies. Do it.
Support them.
Bam. Okay.
Bam.
Well, thank you very much, Todd.
Yeah, bro.
Nope.
Had a great time.
I did too.
What?
I'm probably gonna keep streaming for like a few more minutes, just to like wrap up on my end. But then.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, are you is it Zelda time? Are you gonna play a randomizer right now? I'll just be here commenting on your behavior. Be like, oh, I don't know, Josh. That was your split's not looking good right now.
That seemed like a bad move. You didn't get all the items.
I don't know, man. I honestly don't know how long you could deal with that before you wanted to stab me.
I think I could survive it for a little bit, at least to the forest temple.
All right, you know what? Like I said, one day, just hit me up. I'll be around.
Okay, sounds good. See you, my dude.
Yeah, man. All right. Catch you later, buddy. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Hey there, if you enjoyed this video, why not hit the subscribe button and make sure that bell icon is turned on. Also, if you want to watch the show live, you can check us out over on Twitch, where we stream most nights. And if you want your name in the credits, why don't you check out my Patreon, where you can support the show directly. Thanks for watching.